Hey, so Bryce here. Today it's all about how to thrive as a virtual bookkeeper. So I get asked this question a pretty good amount of time and like different variations. Like, like how can I be successful in this business? What are kind of some mistakes that you maybe made that I can avoid if I just like knew what they were? So I'm making this video kind of like share and like answer that question. So also, if you've been looking for some help, like maybe you've seen some other videos and you've been, contemplating either starting a bookkeeping and accounting business, or you're already in business, but it's just not quite going the way that you want, go ahead and click the link inside the description, book a call with myself, see if I can help you inside of our program. So jumping into this thing, and I have a bit of a cold today. Just my throat and my throat no longer hurts, but I'm like coughing still. So, if there's too much coughing, just try and turn on the volume a little bit. Or if it's too distracting for you, maybe watch a different one of my videos today. But let's kind of go into this thing. So most people's business actually crumbles from the inside long before they ever hit an inflection point in their business. So what do I mean by that? It's generally when you're first starting out, if it's just you, you are your business. Like it's what people talk about, I understand like LLC and like different corporation statuses that you can like have to separate yourself from your business, but I'm not talking about like the entity type. I'm talking about your business as a living, breathing kind of like person, and it's you, right? Especially if you're in something like professional services where it's like based on reputation, based on your skill set, and just kind of based on people's relationship with you. So if you're not really setting yourself up for success, and I mean like business success. I know there's gonna be some people who like watch this, like maybe they're making like 150, 170, 200K per year, right? But when we talk about business success, it's a little bit different. So, number one thing, and when I say an inflection point too, it's just most businesses, especially if it's like a professional services business like this, when you get to a certain revenue point, generally, if it was not by luck, you can keep going. So, like for me, what I've noticed is that anyone that can get to about $3,000 per month using like our system can generally get to like 10, 15, 20,000 per month if they give themselves enough time doing the same exact things already working. So the hardest thing about that is focus. Okay, so focus stands for following one course of action until successful. Follow one course until successful. Now, when I was starting, I had like three different side businesses, and like none of them were like super successful, right? I did like some eBay drop shipping. I tried Amazon drop shipping. I did like web design. I did cold calling. I did fitness stuff, right? And it's like they all kind of had a little bit of success, but not really. And it wasn't necessarily because like I couldn't run all of them at the same time. It was just that when you're running a business either like part time, there isn't enough time in your day or even like having mental bandwidth to do five or six different things, right? Now, like I recommend that when you're starting, you should do one business part time. But think about it like this: if you only have like 3 hours a day, and you have six businesses, that means each business can only have 30 minutes every single day. You know how hard it is to grow a business on like, 30 minutes, like maybe a day. I'm not saying it can't be done, but generally you generally need to have different compartmentalization for every single thing, right? And you're assuming also that since this is part-time, you're gonna have to be able to devote the same amount of energy to each one. So like the one that's in the first time slot might get the most energy, and then your energy can like be dropping, dropping, dropping. So that same 30 minute kind of slot, if you had just done 30 minutes straight for one business, it'd probably be a much more efficient 30 minutes than the one that you're kind of doing now. Right? So if you're already doing your business part time, like you need to give your business enough like energy. Like for me, for example, like there were so many different things that I had to do and had to accomplish. Whenever one would get kind of successful, I would have to take my attention off like the other one in order to like fulfill. So for example, let's say that like I had a day where I got like, six different sales on like e-commerce. I would have to like spend an extra like 45 minutes fulfilling those orders, which took away time from me actually going and building the fitness business. And then when the fitness business would take off and I had extra clients, I wouldn't be able to go and build as many websites because I had to go and make the planning for this like fitness stuff. So it was just kind of like, a constant juggling act of my energy and like my time, like my focus, right? Now, don't get me wrong, I'm a person that likes doing a bunch of different things. Like I just love doing it. That's why I have like, both an accounting business and like a mentorship business, right? Because I just love doing a lot of different things. But there was timing within it, right? I waited until my accounting business was up to a certain size. Then I started the second business, right? Because like a lot of people, what happens is like, they talk like a lot of people that I speak and like they do like multiple businesses, like they're doing the multiple businesses not because like they just don't know what they're doing, but because they're trying to create like a legacy. Now, whenever people talk about like legacy, it's good and it can be a little bit challenging, right? Because like when you start a business, you're almost like restarting a legacy. Now, what I mean by that is like, yes, you will have your skills of accounting, bookkeeping, and maybe you're a CFO at your job. And like those skills are good, but those are only like 25%, in some cases 20%, right? Because it's not just about how you actually do the service, it's also about how you present what you did to the person, right? So let's say there's like five different things. So let's say it's going to be packaging, it's going to be pricing, it's going to be marketing, it's going to be sales, and then it's going to be like the actual service itself. Now, when I say packaging, packaging can be at any one of these like levels, right? So you can package your price in a certain way, you can package the marketing story, you can package your consultation call in a certain way, you can package the client fulfillment. In between sales and client fulfillment is your onboarding process as well, right? So that's six different aspects. If you're like really just kind of like hoping that the work is going to save you, I mean, like it can get you up to like 5 grand, 6 grand per month. Where I see people who like, maybe they have like a lot of skill set. They generally cap off right about like 7,500, $8,000 per month, which is a good living for some, but generally the people who have like those higher level skills that they can get away with like word of mouth. Those are generally the people who need a lot more money to survive. But I was talking to an individual, she was doing about 7,500 per month, but she was making, over like 100, I believe 165 in her job, right? So it's like, for someone who doesn't have the skills, right, 8 grand a month is a good amount of money, but if you do, it's kind of catch 22, right? So most people try and start like legacy too early, but you got to remember, you have to understand like the business realm and the business environment first. And keep in mind, you working at a mid-sized to large business is going to be totally, totally different than working like with small businesses. It just is. Like a lot of people yeah, I have a lot of like for example, when we were getting started, my business partner, she was like, "Yeah, I bring the business experience. We got in, we got punched in the face, left, right, and center every day for the first 6 months, right? And it wasn't because she didn't understand business, but she did not understand the starting of a business. Those are totally different skills. A lot of people from corporate can run a business or keep business like level and maybe grow it a little, like grow it depending like what your core competency is. But starting a business is like the ultimate like challenge that most people can't do. So if you like create the legacy before you've actually been inside of the business environment or the small business startup environment, we'll call it startup environment, right? And it's only going to be very hard. So if you have like five or six different things, now you're starting five or six different like restarts to your career essentially. That can make it a little bit challenging to do. Versus if you just do like one and just like assume like, hey, I'm good at this service. When I start getting clients, I'll be able to take on the clients. But until then, I have to learn a bunch of different skill sets and really commit to those. You can't really focus on legacy because you're really putting like the cart before the horse because you haven't made this startup business successful yet, right? So always focus on like the foundation when it comes, and then the legacy will be made over time. Because then what happens is you can just take the skills that you learned from the first business and take all the money you made from the first business and just acquire other businesses that are already like lukewarm successful, right? So maybe you don't start like maybe let's say you have an accounting business. Maybe you don't start like a um, um an insurance like agency from scratch. Maybe you buy a book of business already and then you can learn the insurance as you go. Maybe you buy another accounting firm, right? So you use the money to then go and buy assets, acquire assets, which can then be used in terms of like your legacy, right? So it's just like it has to be like in the right order. Next thing is like, you have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. Like I talked about earlier, like most businesses crumble from the inside. It's like literally, if you have no energy or if you are always in a bad mood because maybe like you're fighting with your spouse over like certain things, right? Or maybe like, you know, maybe there's a million different things, right? But you have to be able to take care of yourself in order to do it. I was telling a significant other yesterday, she was like, some people come to you and like, like they're kind of in a weird spot to where like they either, you know, just weird spots in their life. It's like, yeah, I mean, in order for someone to be successful in business, they have to like really stabilize their life first and then have like a business going. Because like if you're very unstable, it's like you're just gonna have very unstable like business success, right? And that's why it takes so long. So for example, one of our students named Maite. So when she came in, we had to first fix her schedule, right? Because like even though she was a real estate agent, but real estate agents are in a lot of cases are like independent contractors. So they weren't really teaching her how to build a schedule. So she was like all over the place. It'd be like every single day during the workday, she'd have at least 3 hours of calls with like friends and family during the workday, which are like her prime business hour. I'm not saying don't set your schedule, but she was kind of operating in a 9 to 5 time frame. So it's like, wait. So she not only was doing 3 hours a day of like personal calls, but she had a stop time, right? So sometimes what happens, like people be like, hey, I'm going to choose my schedule, but like you still do your work, right? She would stop whenever the old work day would be done. So she's splitting two things within like 40 hours. So each business was only getting like, 5, 10 hours. Now, if you are successful at managing your time within there, 20 hours a week is amazing. You'd probably be able to get to six figures if you spend 20 hours a week. But in her particular case, it wasn't, right? Because, she wasn't really spending 40 hours a week on either. She was spending maybe like 10 hours a week, right? Because there's a lot of different things. Like she had to like cook dinner during the day. She would have to go out for lunch. She would go to the grocery. It was just like just a crazy schedule. So the first thing we did was just optimize her schedule, and lo and behold, she was able to start having success both in her accounting business and in her regular like real estate side as well. So it's just like it just all starts with like really becoming like a really balanced kind of person that can actually sustain a business, right? Because the next thing is about like consistency, right? Most people aren't really that consistent. They like start and they stop, and they start and they stop. Like they get inspired by like having the business. Something in life will inevitably happen, which it always does. Like I'm always amazed when people are like, they're kind of like, oh, I couldn't do this thing because some life event, like either like COVID happens or like they get a cold or something happens with their children or their car like loses like a tire, breaks down, or something happens, right? It's just like this is life. Like you should expect that things are gonna happen. You might not know exactly what's gonna happen, right? Like for example, like last year I got like randomly a heat stroke, right? And led to me like being like sick for like 2 3 weeks where I couldn't really lift anything. So I was just super like dehydrated and weak. I still worked the business. I still, you have to still do things in life in order to be successful, even when you're like faced with challenges. I heard like a business speaker a number of years ago say this. They said success is really measured by the number of like start stops you have, right? So the average person will have like a start stop every 2 weeks, right? Next is going to be someone that does like once a month. Next is someone who does like once a quarter, and then once every 6 months, then once a year. Now, I'm not saying that these things are not there. Like you might like lose a loved one, right? And like, yeah, it's gonna really sting, right? But it's like whether it was a loved one or your car exploded or kid got sick, kid broke his wrist, like you have to account for that. Like you should be accounting for like how I generally account for things is I take the number of accidents that have happened within the past year and I actually go and like chart it on like a graph, like when are they usually like more likely to happen? What percentage of my year is going to be spent on those kind of things? And I just take an average, right? So I'm like actually getting ahead of it. So I know, okay, so I don't know exactly when it's going to happen, but I should assume it's going to happen. So I need to like build my business around this and build my lifestyle around this so that let's say, for example, I broke my arm or I broke both my arms. I can't type for, 6 weeks, right? What is your business plan about that? Like you have to be able to plan the business and you have to understand that even though like life is going to happen to you, you know, if you want to be successful in this kind of endeavor and if you want to really control your financial freedom until you're at least like 10K per month or 20K per month, right? You really need to be able to kind of like do that. And I'm not saying it's not going to hurt, right? Like you might have, maybe your dad dies, your mom dies. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but I'm saying that you have to really be able to compartmentalize how you respond to certain situations in order to ensure you're successful. So, for example, I had a person, and she had COVID like 2 times. It's like okay, right, and that really kind of derailed a lot of her life because she had lost her job and then She got it again when she was trying to grow a business, and she just kind of like let it stop the business, right? Now, in some cases, like you could be like in the hospitalized for, like maybe you have like a predisposed condition, whatever the case might be. I had COVID like I think 2.5 times. I'd say like half. I don't know the third time it was really or not, but it's just like and I have asthma. I don't know if people know that, but I actually have asthma to a certain degree, right? And it was pretty bad. But, I still had to go and like do certain things in order to make sure that, my business could survive. That was like right around the time where, 2020 we were really starting the mentorship program, and like that was a very like pivotal point. And if I hadn't really like gained a lot of market share in 2020, it would have made it very, very hard for me to kind of like catch up like in 21, 22, and 23, right? So it's like I had to do certain things that I had to do in order to get to the place that I wanted to go to, be like really successful. And yeah, it was terrible, I had to quarantine myself from the rest of the people in my household. I had to, really, really, really um really get better. But it was just like, so what I would do is like for the COVID version I had really made me super tired. So it'd be like I would do like a consultation call with a person, and I would just go to sleep for 30 minutes afterwards. Like I would do like 4 hour long consultation calls a day. And then every time I would just like sleep. And then I had to talk to my team, then I would sleep. It was crazy, but you kind of make it work. Right? My car exploded when I hit a deer 2 weeks after getting it. I didn't have a car, so I had to kind of like learn how to do like the rental system and just like really work that too. So just like, these things are gonna happen in life. But, whether you have a corporate job or whether you have a business, it's like, life still kind of goes on. And I'm not saying that like you have to do that, but I'm just saying like where much is asked, like much is required. Where much is given, much is required. Like you want to have this lifestyle, like it's gonna happen. Stuff is gonna happen. And you have to kind of make a choice each time. Like, are you going to allow kind of life to happen? Or are you going to, be able to start overcoming a lot of these different things? Like, for example, so Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, they worked in their business, Berkshire Hathaway, from I think Warren bought it in like 1965. They're still running it to this day. Charlie Munger was 99 years old. He died a couple months before his 100th birthday, and he was working that business, right? Like life happened to them. Like, yeah, I know they're rich, right? And some will argue that life doesn't necessarily happen the same way for like billionaires as it does for regular people. I understand that, but there was a lot of consistency in there. There's going to be ups and downs, right? And the ups and downs, like there's a lot of hedge funds, there's a lot of like different investment companies that are like, up there. Now, you know what I mean? So it wasn't just like, they were guaranteed to win, but through their consistency, their hard work, and their focus over time, and like them being like the, really, really meditative, like control, just like ideal, consistent business person, allowed their business to be successful. So, take this with some food of thought. I'm not saying like we're impervious, like you might get shot in the arm and you can't move, or you might get in a coma. I'm not saying everything, and I know this is not like the only thing you have in your life, but I'm saying if you say that you want to go and do certain things are going to be required from you. So hopefully you learned something new from this video. And I will talk to you soon. Again, if you want some help growing your business, maybe you've been trying to grow for a number of years, months. I've even heard someone was trying to grow for like 10 years and wasn't able to grow a business. If that's you, right, I recommend that you go and get some help. The thing that changed it for me was getting help, right? It wasn't that, I just like kind of figured this stuff out. I've paid, hundreds of thousands of dollars for like courses, seminars, training, different HR programs, and everything I get my hands onto in order to make sure I can grow my business in as many different ways as possible. So if you want to go and learn the fastest way to grow your business and avoid a lot of like the trial and error that most people make that cause them to, again, crumble from the inside, go ahead and click on the link inside the description, either above or below the video. Book a call with myself or a member of my team to see if I can help you inside of our program. Okay? I'll talk to you soon. I'll see you on the call. If you're not quite ready, that's okay. I'll still be here. Hopefully, your situation, improves. If it doesn't, I'm still here. But I will talk to you soon. Have a good rest of your day. Take it easy.